Hi everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Thanks for joining me. I'd like to start off by telling you a story. When I was younger, my family was given a cat. I didn't want a cat. They didn't necessarily want a cat either. We had an indoor cat, we live on a farm, we had barn cats, but we were given a cat. You see, the person that gave us this cat said that it was a runt of the litter, it was sick and weak, and he's either going to leave it to die, he was going to go put it down, or give it to us. So we decided to take the cat. The first night the cat was here, he was viciously attacked by another barn cat. We don't even know what cat. The cat was bloody, had a dislocated leg, disoriented. This cat had no chance of life on its own. See, here we had a couple of choices. First, we could just leave it to die of its wounds. Very cruel, I know. Otherwise, we could put it down, put it out of its misery, which was the more likely choice considering it was very likely to die from its wounds. Or we could take the tougher route of bringing it to the vet, going through the arduous procedures, the various medications, and all the different trips and special foods it required. We took the latter. We took the tougher route, and I'm thankful we did. We didn't want the cat, but the cat became a very integral part of our family. We grew to love him. We named him Toby. Toby was just like one of us, loving, troublemaking little furry part of our family. Truly, when Toby died, it was like losing another loved one. It was not easy. Though it may seem like a bit of a stretch, women who choose to abort their unplanned children are losing out on the ability to gain a valuable family member and someone to love in their life. Before I even speak about abortion, though, I feel I should define some key terms I'm going to talk about, namely abortion and pregnancy. Starting with abortion, the CDC defines abortion as a procedure performed by a trained clinician in the termination of an ongoing pregnancy. If we're going to talk about that, I guess I should define pregnancy. And looking in Merriam-Webster dictionary, pregnancy is defined in a couple different ways. First is a little more obvious. It's containing a developing fetus, embryo, or unborn offspring. This one we may know. The other two that you may not be familiar with is number one, being rich in significance or implication, or two, having the possibilities of development. These definitions combined help us to understand that if they're performing abortion, they're terminating something that is rich in significance and has the possibility of development. And this is not simply just a passive destruction of a few cells. The mother, the child, all of society are being hurt by the choice to abort. Today I'd like to speak to you and explain to you why abortion should not be a choice because of the consequences involved and the alternative options that are actually available that people often overlook. To start off with, I'd like to talk to you about the consequences directly involved with the child, which become quite apparent when you look at the fetal development process. Like I said, it's not the passive elimination of cells. This is the ending of a life. We notice this when we look at the different weeks of gestation. Only at week 5, there's a brain, a spinal cord, and a head that's developed. Only 1 week later, there's a noticeable heartbeat. This is undoubtedly the point at which a woman can confirm she is pregnant because the heartbeat is noticeable. This is also undoubtedly the point at which it is killing to abort a baby. For would it not be murder if you were to kill someone with a beating heart, whether they have a working brain or not? Something to ponder. And then just a few weeks later at week 10, there's already recognizable facial features on the baby. This became significant when I tell you about the statistic I found in PLOS ONE, explaining that since its legalization in 1973, 11% of all abortions have taken place after 13 weeks of gestation. This is just 3 weeks after recognizable facial features and well after the point of beating heart, so imagine the kind of development that has already taken place. Combining this with another statistic I found in the Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, they estimate in just a 12-year period from 1998 to 2010, 16.1 million abortions took place. We combine these two facts, we come up with an estimation of nearly 6.6 million babies that were aborted in the US since the legalization of adoption. This is a significant number, but maybe numbers don't mean as much to you. Maybe I need to put a face to it. You see, the death of these babies isn't the direct death of just the baby. It's the death of generations, the loss of families, loss of hope in life. Perhaps showing you some pictures can give you some real images. I like to begin with the man at the center of this picture with the gray hair, his name is Russell. He was my uncle, and he is an unplanned child, and these are all of his children and his children's children. Had my grandparents chosen to abort him, none of them would be in existence. On the same token, the woman in this image is my mother. As you can see, I'm in the middle. She was also an unplanned child, and had my grandparents aborted her, my family would not exist and I would not be here today. So this clearly has some deep meaning for me. Perhaps on a more popular scale, you may be familiar with beloved athlete Tim Tebow. Former quarterback, current professional baseball player. His mother was encouraged to abort him, and she persisted through the pregnancy and had him, and now we all grow to love him. Interestingly enough, if every unplanned baby was aborted, you may not have this. You may not have your smartphone. You may not realize this, but Steve Jobs is also an unplanned child. His mother was unplanned with the baby, encouraged to abort, and she chose not to. So thankfully, Steve Jobs is around to give us our iPhones. Imagine how many Steve Jobs in those 6.6 million aborted babies are being lost each year, and what we're missing out on. So, in continuation, aside from the generations clearly affected, the society around us that isn't getting the love and families that we could potentially be seeing, there are immediate and traumatizing effects on the mother. Truly, with abortion as an option, the mother's spiritual, physical, and emotional health are all at risk. First and foremost, their spiritual health. As you can see, I've demonstrated that abortion is clearly murder. And as a Christian myself, and knowing that there are many Christians in the United States, I use the Bible as my moral guide. It's my moral reference. The Bible is rich in verses that explain to us exactly why abortion is wrong and is terrible for the spirit. First and foremost is the pretty obvious one, the commandment in Exodus from God, you shall not murder. I think this one probably does not require a whole lot of explanation. Second would be a psalm, Psalm 127:3. It states, behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. It's a nice little tune, but it explains to us that every baby, planned or not, is a gift from God, and we should cherish it. But what about those of you that say, what if I didn't want a baby? What if I don't want that gift? This is clearly answered by Ecclesiastes 11:5, which states, as you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones of the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. In other words, we don't know exactly how a spirit enters a baby within a mother's womb, nor do we know exactly why it's there. We can't answer that, we can't know. So we're best off assuming that killing the baby is in fact killing, murder of a spirit, and that God put it there for a reason, and you're going against God when you choose so. As if spiritual destruction weren't enough, a woman's physical health truly is at risk. In the same study that I cited earlier from obstetrics and gynecology, they cite that about 7 in 100,000 women actually die during abortion. This may seem like a small number, but keep in mind, this is women that are dying during a procedure that was thought to be harmless. And of those that survive or are not bothered by the spiritual implications, there's clearly mental and emotional anguish that comes with it. A woman who was interviewed by the New York Times to recount her abortion experience was quoted. She explained how she tried to self-abort by drinking this noxious herbal tea. Failed that, she went to a clinic to get the procedure finished. Afterwards, she was asked to reflect on her feelings towards having the procedure done. She was quoting saying, "It wasn't over, of course. Deep in my throat, all these years later, I still taste that tea. Its remembered tang is a sour end of regret, the underside of choice." On the thought of choice, between the pro-life and pro-choice argument, perhaps the greatest sticking point is the reason or the cause of abortion and the reason and cause for pregnancy. See, despite the more extenuating circumstances where the mother and baby are at risk health-wise, there are general patterns that can be seen, and many of these reasons that are given tend to have avoidable alternatives besides abortion. Perhaps the most understandable and foremost is health complications. Many women are clearly afraid of undergoing health complications in pregnancy as they've heard that they happen. This is understandable. It's an understandable fear, but the CDC cites that only 0.35% of all births, that's a fraction of a percent, experience any kind of health complication during childbirth. In continuation, the Turnaway study, which was a study that looked at a bunch of different women who went through abortion and found their reasons why, found a general theme and pattern between all of them, and the four most common ones were financial reasons, timing, partner-related reasons, and the need to focus on other children. All these are certainly viable reasons, but that doesn't make abortion right. And they all do have alternative options. But it may sound like a broken record when I say this. Adoption truly is a better option when it comes to trying to deal with an unplanned pregnancy. Truly, adoption is an excellent option because it does the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people. Unfortunately, our system is broken and encourages abortion over adoption. This is clearly exemplified by what Planned Parenthood explains as an abortion only costing $950 at the max, or possibly being covered by health insurance. On the other hand, creating a family and adoption organization estimates that an adoption can cost up to $43,000 and have a two-year waiting period. So this kind of explains why another statistic by Pregnant Pause, another adoption organization, explains that at any given time, 1 to 2 million couples are waiting to adopt at any given time. This is clearly obvious because only about 4% of all unplanned mothers plan to put their child up for adoption. And in the US, there's only 58,000 adoptions a year. This doesn't even compare to the millions of abortions each year. So clearly, to be able to fix this, we need to fix the system, change the mindset. We have to make it so it's not so easy to choose abortion over adoption. I actually don't have all the answers, but perhaps the first step would be changing the mindset, and a huge leap forward would be pushing for insurance companies to try and fund more abortion or adoption rather than abortion. This could be a huge leap forward. Alternatively, we could push more for education and support for the unplanned mothers. Perhaps then they would feel more confident through the child rearing process and through childbirth, and they maybe even want to keep the baby, or at least want to see the baby through to birth and then give it up for adoption. In the end of the day, my aim is for the preservation of precious human life. So to conclude, I'd just like to reiterate, abortion hurts more people than it helps. It's destructive for the child, the mother, and all of society. It prevents families and couples from the opportunity of giving love and life that they never would have any other option for. Generations are lost, society misses out on great opportunities. Where abortion kills lives and hope and love, adoption gives hope. Thank you.